At some point, you realize your daughter's taken her last ride on your shoulders. I'm learning to let go of my plans and start trusting God with his.
Hi, I'm Dr. Meg Meeker, pediatrician and author who has spent the last 32 years talking about the important role faith plays in parenting. I'm here with Bart Johnson and Robyn Lively, who star in the new Pure Flix original, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. The movie was inspired by my international bestseller of the same name, and I am so humbled to be here to talk with Bart and Robyn about the book and the film. In case you hadn't heard, the new movie, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, is streaming right now on Pure Flix. You should go check it out after watching the interview. Head on over to pureflix.com and start streaming today. So, Bart and Robyn, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Meg. How are you?
I'm
Thanks
good.
for having us. We're excited to be here.
Thank
Big
you.
Fans, big fans.
Well, right back at you. You know, it's funny. I always thought people would say, why don't you be out front talking about the movie? And I thought, people don't want to see me. They want to see Bart and Robyn. So anyway.
That's not true.
Yeah, we love seeing you. We love hearing where the story comes about. Like, you're the heart of it. So we really appreciate the impact you've had on so many people. And of course, we wouldn't have been able to make this movie without you. So you are the reason.
Well, thank you. You know, it is incredibly humbling because when I wrote the book, it really was God inspired. It's not something I ever set out to do. It was just kind of one of those zings from heaven. It's like, do this. And I thought, I know God well enough to do what he says or else. So anyway, well, let's talk about modern parenting. What do you think are the most difficult challenges parents have today?
I love what you said there, because I feel like, you know, like as actors and as parents, like we love to have like feel a part of a mission or called to do something on a higher level or have a deeper meaning or impact. So I love that that's the reason you wrote this book. So thank you for that. And now, Robyn.
Well, I know that we struggle sometimes with finding the balance of being your parent, being your children's parents, and then being your children's friend. And I think that's a common theme. Like, no one wants to upset their kids. Everyone wants to be their best friend, but it's also at the cost of, you know, not doing right by them or not doing what's best for them. And I love, you know, the scene in the movie where Bart goes in and he snatches up his daughter. Well, he certainly didn't make a best friend out of her, but that was the right thing to do, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I was going, go Bart.
Yeah.
That's something that was kind of really a big part of the heart of my book is, look, you got to fight for your kids. You got to stand up and say, okay, I know you feel happier in the moment staying with your friends, but this isn't going to happen because it's not very good for you. And you did that scene extremely well, Bart, and it looked like you really got into it. Is that something you would do in real life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I tried to, when we were shooting that scene, I really tried to feel inside how hard that would really be. So instead of, on paper, it's like, oh, you just go pull this girl out of this party. But really on the inside, if you're a dad and you know what you're doing to your daughter, you totally understand this is humiliating for her. This is going to have, there's going to be recourse to this. And I think, to echo what Robyn's saying, like, that's the hardest part of being a parent. Like, we all want to be the best parent we can. I think anybody that has kids who's halfway into parenting, it's like, that's all I want to do in life is I just want to be the best parent possible. But then it's a bigger trick on top of that of like, well, okay, that doesn't mean be cool and just give them what they want and try to give them stuff that you didn't get. As like I built my kid a half pipe because I always wanted a skateboard half pipe in my backyard. Well, I did that for my kid. Well, okay, that's the fun stuff. But then there's this real stuff, the stuff that matters, like protecting them and doing right by them and not being popular. So I tried to play that scene where I go in that party and I just, in the back of my head, it's like, if this is my daughter, like, I'm not stopping and I'm not hesitating. No question about that. At the same time, my heart's breaking inside because I know this is not going to go well long-term for her social life at school. So but you got to do what's right.
And I think you hear a lot of parents these days are like, well, I'd rather them do it in my home. So it's like, it's more like, it's a lot. I feel like parents are shying away from just saying no, like, this is unacceptable. Yeah. The answer is no. You don't do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we've always felt like it was very important for us to draw a line and say, this is the line between right and wrong. You don't cross this line. So understood I would rather them do the wrong thing in our home. It's like, well, no, we don't want to condone that. We want to be very perfectly clear what's right and wrong, and make that clear to our kids.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And it kind of brings me to my next thought. What kind of values do the two of you emphasize in your home? I mean, I know you have a very strong faith, and that came out in the movie, which was awesome. But what kind of values do you use in your home with your kids? And how do you teach them those values without them pushing back and going, oh, you're just mom and dad. What do you know? So talk to us a little bit about what goes on in your own home.
We get that a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
This is a good one. Bart, you go ahead, take this one. Because
honestly, the first thing I thought of is, and this is, I wish I could tell parents this, is start way earlier than you think. And start, it's not a, hey, we should have a talk about this. It's like, no, this is a lifetime campaign. You know, you start at a very young age, you start instilling these really important values and faith and love and kindness and understanding what's good and what's not, and what's evil and what's right and what's wrong, what's going to bring you happiness, what's going to bring you chaos and misery in your life. And it's kind of like, you know, in the scriptures, there's this really, you know, a great analogy of holding up your armor against things that are evil. And you want to like enforce that armor and make it strong. And it's like, well, that's a campaign that's ongoing. It's daily. It's not just weekly. It's like, it's daily. You have to make your kids strong and fortify them and get them ready to send them out in the world. Because then when you send them out into school, before you know it, it's like, we've been to high school. We've all been to high school. We remember what was in high school. You got to prepare your kids long before that.
Yep. You're right. And Robyn, how did you and Bart sort of work as a team? You know, the movie is Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, but the truth of the matter is mom is in there with a profound influence, which is different. So how did you work together as a team to be a strong mom next to a strong dad?
in real life?
In real life. Yeah, in real life.
Oh, well, it's a partnership, you know, and it's being on the same page with each other and being like a united front. Because, you know, your kids are going to try to work you individually and separately. So, you know, I think it's that being a team and being, you know, a united front. And by the way, I want to add to what Bart was saying about what values we instill in our home is gratitude, service. You know, they don't always love the service, but man, you look back on those memories together and it's, you know, when you're doing something for other people, you're not thinking about yourself. And I always find that it's so much more satisfying to do something for other people. At the end of the day, you're the one that ends up with the gift, you know? Yeah. So we tried to teach our kids that.
Robyn, I'm so glad she brought that up because it's funny because I just gave a talk in church about gratitude and here I am. I skipped it. You know, this is,
I was teeing you up for that. I was like, Bart,
I appreciate that. That is how we work together, Meg. This is how this is exactly right. I skip over all the important stuff and Robyn dials me in. So, yeah, I think gratitude is key. It really is. Like there's probably no greater attribute, I think, that we could hope to instill in our kids is have gratitude. And we do spend a lot of time with our kids, but we don't just spend fun. I'm like, we just did a 3-week trip to Europe and it like a road trip. Like it was amazing. And we do a lot of fun stuff. We go surfing together, but we don't just do the fun stuff. Like we serve other people. And I don't mean like for an afternoon. I mean, I did a 3-week trip in Samoa where we built, public schoolhouses for kids these little kids are packed 50 people into a little square box. Like they get to serve other people and get to be face to face with, you know, the people that they're serving, and they get to see how much of an impact they can make. And it's the greatest gift I think you could give to your kids.
You know, I agree with you. You know, we're mission oriented as well. And I remember taking our 14-year-old to the Dominican Republic. We were going to work in a remote medical clinic. And I remember thinking, this is really important for her. I want her to learn service and gratitude. And we got there. And I was very nervous about where we were, and she was fine. And she ended up sort of teaching me more than I was teaching her. But I do think it's important to sort of put your kids right next to you. And rather than say, this is how you serve, and this is why you're grateful, and this is why, God is important, and this is how you pray, you just go do it.
Yeah.
And keep your mouth shut. And I think that so much of the power in parenting isn't talking. It's just going and doing it. And I know I'm really good at talking and telling our kids over and over and over and over and over what they need to do. And I think dads are a little better on just saying things once or twice and backing off. So who in your family is the one who begins tough discussions or gets in there and dives in with your kids and realizes, we got an issue, we got to talk about it. We need to, bring this child forward and start talking about some tough stuff. Who is that in your family? Robyn or you, Bart?
What do you think? I don't think there's one more than the other, really. I think that's one thing that we take pretty serious, is that we have family discussions and sit downs immediately. Like, we don't let time pass. Like, we jump in and we discuss, and hopefully we've taught our kids to be able to be open and honest and be able to communicate, which is, we have teenagers. So it's not the easiest thing to do, but I think it's really been great. Robyn, what do you think?
I agree with that. And I don't think we're always successful. I mean, we certainly don't have it all figured out. I don't think any parent does, but we just do our best.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I bring it up is because in my experience, dads, particularly with daughters, are very hesitant to dive in. Because they're going to think they're going to say the wrong thing, or they don't understand their daughter, particularly single dads. I don't understand how she thinks. I don't know why I don't know all this kind of stuff. So they kind of don't know how to handle it. So they don't want to jump in. So Bart, as a dad, what encouragement would you give the dads out there to just go for it with your son or your daughter?
Okay. I love this, because I have very strong feelings about this, because I think all those men out there that feel that way are totally valid. Like, that's a valid reason. There's, there's a different process, and we have to, we might not see things the way they see things. It doesn't make any sense to us. So I think this, what I've come to realize, is that you have the conversations, you check your ego, you have no pride, and you have patience, you have tenacity, and you lead with love, and you listen. We got 2 ears and we got one mouth. We listen to what they have to say and try our best to understand, and just be patient. And it's just like those, I kind of feel like if you lead with all those important qualities, you're committed to having the conversation, understanding. And I think you might feel like a failure at the end of the conversation, because maybe you don't get through the way you thought, but your kids are watching. And they see what you're doing, and if they can see that you're making an effort and you're there with humility, coming before them, trying and making up, I think that's gonna make a big impact. At least I feel like it has with our kids. Our kids are 19, 17, and 14, so we're still on the journey. We're still figuring it out. But I mean, we're so thrilled to death with how it's not necessarily anything we've done. I think we're definitely trying to do our best, but our kids are so sweet, and they're able to communicate, and we're still trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. I want to meet your kid.
I do think with Kate, though, sometimes you'll say things to me, and I'll give you like maybe a little inside perspective on the female mind.
Yeah,
100%. And it's so funny. It's, we don't treat our kids, we treat the boys different than the girls. There's none of that. It's just, we have one daughter and two boys, and she just thinks different. I mean, she just processes differently. And I will go to Robyn. I'm like logic, reason. And she's like, listen, you don't understand. Like, open your mind. And I'm like, okay, I try to understand, and sometimes I just don't get it, and I got to accept that I don't get it. But I'm glad Robyn's there to tell me, to dial me in on this stuff. I'd be in big trouble.
But I do think that's important because one of the things wives can help their husbands with is to understand, their daughters, because daughters do think differently. They bond to people differently. They relate to people differently. And the same is true with boys. We have 3 daughters and a son. And when it came to my son, he kept saying, Mommy, I already said that. Why are you repeating yourself? And I said, because to get through to you, I need to say it 5 times.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you don't. No, you told me you loved me yesterday. That's good for a week. So anyway, but it is kind of funny. So let me ask you, and maybe Robyn can answer this. Why do you think this movie and message is important for moms and all parents right now?
I love the message. I love that I feel like we're kind of like veering into a territory of society feeling like fathers aren't as important or as valued or I don't know. I think that they are crucial in the development of your children and especially your daughters. And even if you don't have a husband, if you have any sort of like male influence, I think it's incredibly important. And I love the message that it's like, Steve is going and doing and he's always working and the wife is like, hey, you gotta like be present, take the time. It's not just the mom's role to be the parent to the children. It's both of us, and you will never regret time spent with your children. And I think that's one thing Bart and I will never regret is like, we put time with our kids at the very top, it's everything. But life is hard, and it pulls on us in so many different directions. And I value Bart's influence on our children. Like I couldn't do it without him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think about single moms, and I get the question a lot from single moms because I wrote this book, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, and single moms will come up to me and go, so is it a done deal that my daughter will never be okay? And I said, absolutely not.
No.
But you can only be a great mom. You can't, and they're trying so hard to be a great mom and a great dad, and you can't be 2 people.
Right.
And so to find the influence of a good man around you and just show, show your daughter how he lives and how he talks to you and so forth. But, is there any encouragement, Robyn, and I'm sure you have some single mom friends that you would give specifically to single moms when it comes to helping their daughters understand men and how to be treated and so forth?
Well, I think it just comes down to self-love and self-respect. Of course, every situation is different. There are going to be women that don't have a male influence in their lives. And that doesn't mean you can't be a wonderful mother and you can't be a great influence on them. That's just the reality of things. So, again, I would lead with all the things that I do with my kids, which is self-love and respect for yourself and other people, and show your daughter show her how valued she is, show her how special she is. That's everything. If you, like Bart was saying, like you lead with love and spend the time with your kids. Time is everything. We know who our kids' friends are. We know where they are. Social media is a terrifying thing. And it's something that we didn't grow up with. But how important it is for them and their self-esteem to manage those kinds of things and just spend the time. That's all I can say is time with your kids is vital.
Bart,
if I can add on to that, what Robyn was saying there about, we've also discovered the value and significance of a positive male role model outside of the home. We feel super blessed and understand not everybody is lucky to have an uncles. Like we've got some amazing uncles,
right?
And my brother Adam is a huge part of our family. He comes over to our house a lot. He spends time. He goes out to dinner or lunch with our daughter, and they have like a really terrific relationship. And we have other organizations and youth programs, different places where we really look for a real positive male role model, people that are not you're not mom and dad. There's a lot of value in the development of somebody outside the home that's a really positive influence. So I think those are really important too. You don't want it just to be like we have friends that maybe are not the role model, but there's some people that are like, this is a great role model and this is who we want them to spend time with and learn from.
Mm-hmm. So how big of a role does church play in your lives, attending church, or how do you deal with that with your family and with your kids? Because you're on the road a lot. And I imagine your kids are as well. So how do you navigate that?
I grew up going to church. Bart and I both did. Like that was just, it's always been a part of our lives. Always. So it's kind of like a non-negotiable, like it's just what we do. It's not like we don't think about it. You know what I mean? We go to church. That's just something that we do. And we've found it to be so, such a wonderful thing in this world. And in this, especially this day and age with our kids, and just instilling values and them having friends that have the same values and things like that. It's tough. It's really tough, but like we get so much out of it. So much, like it's just a reminder of like what's important in life. And so much of it is focused on doing for others and having gratitude and just all the good things, Yeah.
We know too. It's like it takes a village. Like if you raise kids, you can't do it on your own. That's impossible. It takes a village to raise kids, and it's like, well, where's your village? Where are you getting your village from? And the families that we've spent time with are great people. And there's a lot of times you go to church, there's just an automatic need for service. Like they will provide so much for opportunities to serve others and serve people you don't know, and serve people that you might not ever see their reaction to it or feel any sort of physical or visual reward for it. You're just serving because people need it. And I think like that builds so much character in these kids. So having opportunities to serve, and like-minded individuals that prioritize service and love and caring and repenting for yourself and forgiving others and all this great stuff. It's like that's part of from a young age, learn how to love, learn how to accept, learn how to serve, learn all these really wonderful qualities. So when you get to that scary place for a parent, which is like high school, you've been preparing for a decade and a half now before you send your kids off into that environment.
Let's talk about, if I could, we don't have much time left, but I'd love to hear 2 or 3 takeaways for mothers, Robyn, and 2 or 3 takeaways for dads, Bart, from the movie. What do you hope that parents really walk away from the movie going, oh yeah, okay, Robyn?
Again, I'm going to circle back to the time with your kids, listening to them. I know there's a metaphor with the balloon, at the end, he lets the balloon go.
Makes me cry.
No, but I'm like, I don't know that we ever fully let go of our kids. We just don't. But the importance of like Bart and I thought, our son is 19 and we had all sorts of plans for him and what he was going to do with his life. Turns out he had his own ideas. Yeah. So, the importance of just like trusting your kids to a certain degree, but being open-minded and listening and knowing that they have visions for their own lives. And, when Balin, like the line about she's not fully cooked yet, Balin at that point, when he was like graduated high school, like, well, he is fully cooked. Like our job is done. We did it. He is, and there was such a peace in my heart about that because I am so proud of him. Of course, I want him to continue to make great decisions, but I think like the takeaway is taking time for your family, listening to your kids, doing right by them, doing the right thing by them, even when it's not the most popular thing to do. Maybe if it's not going to gain their love for you, when it's doing the right thing for them at all costs or right by them, I think is so crucial because we all tend to shy away from that because we don't want our kids to be upset with us. Right. And I love that this film is focused on the family bond and unity and being there for each other. And that's our model too. So it's given us a lot of happiness.
Awesome. Bart?
Well, I think, I hope in this day and age, we already know, before we play on this movie, we already know the significance of mothers. We talk about it a lot. We celebrate it a lot. We certainly do in our home. We respect it more than anything. The moms are the center of the universe, the center of the family. we worship our queen moms. So
your crown. You forgot your crown, Robyn.
I did.
Yeah. So the title of the film, like, some people ask us about that, about like, the significance of the father. I mean, we're like, yes, we're already assuming we understand the significance of the mothers. This particular story, we're just a reminder of the importance of the father. And we want to remind men. Well, a lot of people in these interviews have asked us, what does it mean? What does it mean to be a strong father? And we've had our answers. And I thought, that's a great question that maybe when you watch this movie, you can ask yourself, like, what do you think is a strong father? Like, how do you want to be strong for your kids? Like, I think there's this sort of base desire to be physically strong and be able to protect them, which is great. And you want to provide for them, and you want to give them stability and a home and food on the table, all the great stuff. Like, that's being strong. Like, okay, what else? Well, how else do you want to be strong? Well, I want to be an example to my kids. I keep thinking this expression during our conversation here today, which is, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. I want to have that kind of strength for my kids. I want them to see that I can love others and accept people and serve others and be good to them and be patient. And when things go wrong, work through things and be patient for results, and have the strength to forgive others. The strength, I always tell my kids, I'm like, look, you guys, it's really easy to love someone that's really nice to you. It's really easy to forgive someone that's really sweet and they're saying sorry. That's child's play. Go forgive someone that's really mean to you. Someone that's been a real jerk, someone that you hate. Go love them. Go love them. And you want to make that muscle of love and forgiveness. You got to, I always say, like, it's like going to the gym. You can lift a tiny little weight and forgive and love someone that's really sweet. Or you can put some demand on that muscle of forgiveness and love someone that's done you really wrong or made you really upset. Love and forgive that person and see what kind of strength you can build. That's what I hope people can take away from this movie, is just a reminder of, like, the strength, the kind of strong you need to be for your daughter. And Steve certainly thought he was going to be strong for his daughter with all the, the base reasons, but like, it got a little deeper on him when he needed to be a lot more than that for his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Bart and Robyn, thank you so much. This is so fun. And it sounds like this movie was a great one for the two of you to work on, because a lot of the principles written in the book are what you live out. And so it was an honor for me, for you guys to be playing the role. And, to just talk about the favorite lessons and the things that you got from the book. And I would just like to say to everybody listening today, thank you so much for being part of the Pure Flix family. And if you haven't watched the movie, head over to Pure Flix. You're going to love it. It's fun. It will make you laugh. It will make you cry, but it will have something profound for everybody. So thanks for listening, and thanks for being open, and understand that Pure Flix is great entertainment for your family. So come on in and be part of the Pure Flix family. So thanks for joining me, you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.